Winter is coming. Feels so ominous and brooding, and yet we will all have winter lives at some point in time. And winter in our proverbial life, in our season, our emotional season, is not just 3 to 4 months long. It can be years that we just feel as if everything that we do just seems like it's overwhelming and we can't make that right decision. And so I want to explore today this idea of what a winter season is for us. And it's not a comfortable season. Even in life, it doesn't feel, or in nature, it doesn't feel like a comfortable season. Some people do love a winter because they don't want to be hot, they'd rather be cold. But even on the coldest night, sometimes it's just really hard to feel warm. And so what we're going to explore today is how do we feel warm when life feels really cold to us? And there's a lot of times as we found that we're suffering in despair and we don't even realize it. Sometimes we're in a winter and we're not quite sure that we're there, or we're struggling and pretending like it's a spring and we just haven't gotten any of the crops yet. And so let's look at some indicators in a little bit about what a winter looks like and how we can get out of it. So in general, a winter season is this idea that there's an overwhelming decisions and we're not really, and it just feels like life just is happening to us and we have very little control over how life is happening to us. And so that may be that we are kind of being in these negative cycles consistently triggered, whether that is within our control or not. You know, we are not consciously reacting. That is something that's happening in our implicit brain, and it is our survival mechanism just trying to get through a stressful situation. And in fact, what we find is that as we're in these winter seasons, sometimes it's our negative dynamic, but sometimes it's things outside of our control. It just feels like it's a consistent, we didn't get this one job, we didn't get this one house. Our friends seem to be telling us like, I'm just kind of, I think we've reached the max of our friendship. It just feels like things are just piling on us and we don't know how to come out of it. And what I tell my clients is that when we are in this place where it feels like we are drowning, we are usually only in 3 feet of water. We're in the surf. And as we're in that surf, we're sitting down. And so the waves keep crashing on us and we just can't seem to get out of it. It's like as soon as we get a breath, another wave crashes on. We get a breath, another wave crashes on. And it feels like we're going to be here forever and we're going to drown. But when we ground, we realize we can stand up. And now those waves, they're like at our knees. It's not as scary. It's not as scary. And so as our waves are at our knees, as we are in a winter, we can then start finding more ground to kind of walk on and see what do we want to do with that. Because there's a lot of fun things in winter. There's a lot of potential and possibility in winter. And there's a lot of things that we can do that will help us to get to spring. So let's look at recognizing when we are in a winter. The first thing that happens when we are in a winter is it feels like everything is just an uphill battle. It feels like we have this giant mountain and all we're doing is pushing a rock up the mountain. And what we're not realizing is that it's kind of going to happen. Like there's a lot of rocks that need to get to the top of the mountain. And so this is not an outcome to get a rock up the mountain. It's a process. And as you build your switchbacks and you build more efficiency, you realize you can move more rocks up the mountain if you take time to actually look at the entire mountain and create the best path for it, to create the mechanisms that will pull the rocks up the mountain instead of you pushing it. So it's a reframe. The more that we can reframe, switch our expectations, because perceived expectations are the killer of joy. And so as we can reframe these expectations, then we can start finding these possibilities. We can start putting in some efficiencies, and we can use radical acceptance in our favor. The second thing that indicates we are in a winter is that isolation feels more comfortable than connection. And so the solution to this is opposite action. As you want to get under those covers and that comforter and pull them over your head and pretend like life isn't happening, remember the feedback loops. When I do nothing, I must be depressed. If I'm depressed, I don't want to do anything. If I fear something, then I don't want to go near it. If I don't want to go near it, I must fear it. These feedback loops will get stuck, and we will be stuck in these mindsets, these all or nothing mindsets, where one negative equals another, which validates the first, and it just keeps looping, and it's exhausting. And so we have thought, we have feelings, and we have behaviors. And a behavior equals a feeling, which equals a thought, which thought equals a feeling, which equals a behavior, thought, behavior. It all connects. A plus B equals C. C plus B equals A plus C equals B, right? They are all connected. So all you have to do is interject in one, and you interject in all of them. Opposite action is usually the easiest thing to interject in, because we get very defensive on our feelings and we find we're gaslighting ourselves and our thoughts. So logically I know, emotionally I can't feel, so let's do an opposite action. And as we're doing an opposite action, we are engaging in the things that we want to avoid. And the more that we engage in things that we want to avoid, the easier it is for us to be present and start creating that positive flow state. And that positive flow state is where the spring is going to come. We're spreading seeds. That is spring. So the third thing that looks like we're in a depressive or a winter state is the future feels foggy and really uncertain. We really don't feel like there's a grounded next step. And so the solution to this is success-oriented goals. Don't make big decisions in foggy places. Wait until the sun comes out and there is a clear horizon before making major moves. Stick to small, bite-sized goals that you can win in. And so when my clients are like severely depressed or severely anxious, I've had quite a few clients that really, in the beginning, when they first started seeing me, would not leave their room. And we talked and discovered and worked through and got a lot of solution-oriented activities and goals to find wins, to get them not only into main areas of their house, but to feel comfortable to go onto the porch, and then they would go outside, and then they're driving and they're leaving the house and they're going and doing things and getting jobs, like really huge wins, because all they did is, to begin with, is one self-care goal, one productive goal. And a self-care goal is like washing your face, getting dressed, getting out of bed, getting out of your bedtime clothes and into daytime clothes. Productive is like small things like sending back a text, reaching out to somebody, throwing away junk mail, making your bed, washing your sheets, like little things, cleaning your nightstand. So what we do is we kind of create a list of things that we can do. 10 being like, this is a lot of energy, this is a really good day, this is a really big goal. 1 being, I kind of already do that every day, so all I am doing is truly putting intention behind it. And we just kind of crank off. There's no judgment. If you go 2 years on a 1, you went 2 years on a 1, but you did it. You set an intention and you did it. And what happens is the 1s build up into 3s and 4s. The 3s and 4s build up to 5, 6s. The 5, 6s build up to 8, 9s. And then you start wanting to do more. So the 1 a day of each turn into 3 of each, and then 5 of each. And you start feeling more and more capable. And then you're doing 5 3 times a day, you know, and you're building up slowly to that, but it's just one self-care, one productive. And you say, this is going to be it. And water, technically drinking a glass of water can be either. So if you just drink a glass of water, you're already doing something for yourself intentionally. So find those little wins, those micro wins really do add up into big things and get you to your spring. So the fourth thing that is indicative of you being in a winner is joy feels elusive or forced. Oftentimes in severe depression, we talk about numbing. And SSRIs are actually capping. They're not numbing you. It feels like numbing, but they're actually capping you. So your highs aren't too high, your lows aren't too low. It's just like this capping that happens. But in a winner, it's a little bit different. In a winner, it just feels like joy is not really something that you're going to achieve. And it feels forced, like, ha 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 ha. You know, you're almost forcing yourself to laugh in order to kind of those perceived expectations again, to really mirror some perceived expectations. And so again, small bites, realistic goals. Don't look at everything that you could do, and don't look at being grateful, but look at that gratitude spectrum. Go to my website, and on my blog, you'll see the gratitude spectrum. Go to my website, and on my blog, you'll see the gratitude spectrum. This is something I go over with my coaching clients, and really it's suffering, despair on one side, gratitude on the other. And modern day psychology says, just be happy, just be grateful. And you're like, am I failing? I can't just be grateful. I don't feel grateful. I don't feel happy. Why am I the one who can't do it? It must be my fault. Negative narrative. We're right on the negative dynamic. And instead, most people, 95% of the people, are kind of in a 1 to 3. So they're really struggling in this logically I know, emotionally I can't feel state. And so what we're trying to do is get to my behaviors are reflecting my value. I still have doubt. And as we get there, we get to like a neutral, and then we start to actually believe kind of the behaviors that we are doing. But we want to start small and realize logically I know, emotionally I can't feel. And what I'm kind of running towards is I can have doubt, but I want to keep doing behaviors because those behaviors will turn into something. Opposite action. And the fifth and last thing that will indicate that you are in a winner is that progress feels impossible despite your efforts. So you may feel as if you're like really on that hamster wheel. You're going, you're running along and you're running along. And at some point, you kind of get into this thing like, no matter what I do, it just feels like the suck is there. And that will happen in a winner, but also know that in a winner, that's where roots are really taking growth. And so it may not be visible, but the change is there. And oftentimes when I have clients who are pretty severely depressed, we do a Likert scale. And that just means like a 1 to 5, 1 to 10, whatever you like. And you just say, today my depression is at a 5. My anxiety is at a 5. Tomorrow maybe I'm at a 4. I'm at a 4. I'm at a 4 and a 3. I'm at a 3 and a 2. I'm at a 3 and a 3. I'm at a 4 and a 2. Like, and it just keeps kind of, you just are putting into motion like, this is kind of where I'm at today. And what you find is even though emotionally you can't feel, logically you may know, but now you have a visual representation, and we do this with behavioral activation and cognitive behavioral therapy as well, is now you have like a whole track record that shows you that you are actually growing more than you think you are. And so having that kind of record there really helps you to kind of seal in the things that you logically know but emotionally can't feel. And again, on that gratitude spectrum, you're starting to grow and collect these valid data points that will help you to really get to that spring that you want. And so it's important that we are very clear on what we want to do. Once we know that we are a winter, now what do we do with it? We really want to be clear to winterize our inner selves. Just like we winterize our homes, we want to winterize ourselves. We want to collect all the water spigots and get all the air and water out and cap them off and put some insulation around it. Because if we don't, we're looking at bigger problems in the spring, and we want to enjoy our spring. And so how we winterize ourselves is to be able to create these routines that will help us in that feedback loop, right? If I am doing nothing, then I must be scared or depressed. And if I'm scared or depressed, then I must be doing nothing. And so the routines really help us to break that cycle. Again, behavioral activation is a big part of how you get out of winters, because you're constantly approaching things and you're not avoiding and hiding away when all you want to do is just sit and avoid. Get a good book, scroll on your phone, watch the fire, get a little hot cup of a beverage next to the fire. Like, all of these things can be positive or negative, but it's how you use them. And oftentimes in a winter, we're not using them for good and for positive reinforcement for the things that we have done. We're using them to escape. A lot of times I talk about these 3 pillars of success: accountability, purpose, and dedication. And in a winter, the dedication is what will get you through. You have to keep showing up and knowing your why. So we define a why through the purpose, but a dedication says we keep showing up and we keep referencing that why. It's a 3-legged stool. You need all 3 legs to be stable, and they all are there. And accountability is going to give you the atomic habits so that you keep showing up, that dedication, and using your why, your purpose. And so having this why is what gets us through all of the low motivation. Because remember, a winter is a negative cycle, which will strip us of. Remember that a winter is a negative cycle. It's going to strip us of capacity, value, and motivation to do better. And so as we prepare for our spring, there are some key components that are going to be insightful to you to know that you are on your journey. It may not happen all the time, but really nourish these small moments, these little 70-degree days amongst a bunch of 30-degree weeks. And that is this moment where things don't feel, the routine doesn't feel so burdensome and heavy. The moments where we start to get curious about things and we wonder about new things. These moments where conversations actually leave us kind of fulfilled and energized. These ideas that make you want to actually take action. You feel the motivation, it's coming. These are the things that are going to allow us to know that spring is right around the corner. So just stay put. You're almost there. And our last key point is that winter is a time of reflection. It's a time of gathering knowledge from the year, from your past harvest, and being able to utilize that and pivot to the next season. So use the gift of winter to refresh, to re-energize, to reset, to be able to set some new targets and goals for when the spring comes, and live in the present that is winter, because it is not forever. It will pass, and your spring is just around the corner. And if this is something that you really like, then go in and like and share and subscribe, because I've got lots of brain coaching techniques that I want to share with you so that you can live a happier, healthier, more purpose-driven life. I'm Jennifer Evans with Empowering Wellness Counseling Solutions. Thank you so much.